He was just 2 wins away from becoming world champion, a 27-year-old underdog who tore through the biggest names in darts with the kind of fire most players only dream of. But just 6 years later, he didn't even have a tour card. Jaime Lewis's rise was electric. His fall, fast, brutal, and for a while, completely unexplained. From averaging 107 on the biggest stage in the world, to averaging below 60 in front of a stunned crowd, fans were left asking, what happened to Jaime Lewis? What started as a breakout story for the ages quickly spiraled into something darker, personal demons, shocking performances, and a comeback most people didn't even notice. This is the rise and fall of one of dart's most unpredictable stars. And trust me, it's not the story you think it is. Long before Jaime Lewis stunned the world at Ali Pali, he was already turning heads in youth darts. In 2007, he started showing up at WDF youth events. By 2008, he'd reached the final of the Boys World Masters. A year later, he was back in another final, this time at the Europe Youth Cup, narrowly losing to a Swedish rising star. But he wasn't just a finalist, he was a finisher. In 2009, at just 17, Jaime stormed to victory in both the World Youth Masters and the World Youth Cup. 2 major titles in one season, and that was his final year as a youth. Everyone could see what was coming next. By 2010, he had moved up to the senior level and immediately made an impact, winning the Welsh Classic at just 18. A year later, he stepped into the pressure cooker of PDCQ school, and didn't just survive. He thrived. By the end of day 4, he had his tour card in hand. But Jaime wasn't just some talented rookie. He had fire. That same year, he grabbed 2 development tour titles and quietly worked his way into the World Championship through the back door, because the top 3 players on the Youth Order of Merit had already qualified. He made his PDC World Championship debut in 2013. He looked sharp, went up 3-1 in his prelim match, and then lost 3 straight legs without getting a single dart at a double. Just like that, he was out. But that early heartbreak, it wasn't the end. It was just the spark. After that early exit, Jaime could have faded like so many young talents before him. But 2013 became the year that changed everything. He started racking up wins against established names, Brian Woods, Barry Bates, just to qualify for Euro Tour events. And once he got there, he didn't just show up. He tore through Colin Osborne, edged out Robert Thornton, whitewashed Steve Brown, and scraped past Kevin Painter in a nail-biter. That set up a semi-final against Adrian Lewis, a 2-time world champ. And here's where it got wild. Jaime called it his final, and he meant it. Adrian missed 3 match darts, Jaime didn't. 1 clutch double, and he just booked a spot at the World Match Play. Blackpool was his big league debut, and he was immediately tossed into the fire against Phil Taylor. The result? A 6-1 loss, but no one expected him to get that far in the first place. That same year, he made his first senior final and started to build a reputation, fast, fearless, and quietly dangerous. He started showing up at major events like the Players' Championship and UK Open. Sometimes he crashed out early. Sometimes he pushed deep. But one thing was clear, Jaime Lewis wasn't just promising anymore. He was right there, knocking on the door, and in 2018, he kicked that door off the hinges. It almost didn't happen. Jaime didn't qualify for the World Championship through the Order of Merit. He barely scraped into the PDPA qualifier, and even then, only grabbed a spot by winning the 3rd place playoff. On paper, he was just another filler in the preliminary round. But what happened next was nothing short of historic. First, he beat Kenny Nayans with a clean 3-0 sweep in the final set. That same night, he came back and demolished fellow Welshman Johnny Clayton with a 99 average. Confidence, sky high. And he wasn't done. In round 2, he drew the number 2 seed, Peter Wright. Odds had him at 6-1. A mismatch on paper. But darts isn't played on paper. Wright took the first set. Then Jaime flipped a switch. He won 4 straight sets and finished with a mind-blowing 107 average. It wasn't just the performance of the tournament, it was one of the most unexpected upsets in recent PDC history. Next up, James Richardson. Same pattern. Lost the first set, won 4 straight, into the quarterfinals. By this point, the entire darts world was watching. Jaime Lewis had become the first player ever to reach the quarterfinals after starting in the preliminary round, and he wasn't slowing down. He faced Darren Webster in the quarters, and obliterated him. 5-0. Just 28 years old, and now 1 match away from the World Championship final. Only one man stood in his way. Phil Taylor, playing the last tournament of his career. Jaime took the first set. It looked like the fairy tale might continue. But Taylor locked in, won 6 in a row, and ended the run. A brutal finish, but Lewis had already made history. But what no one knew was that this might be the last time he'd ever shine like that again. After the world watched Jaime Lewis light up the 2018 World Championship, everyone expected the next step to be stardom. He'd just gone toe-to-toe with legends and walked away with over 85,000 pounds. But instead of rising, he started slipping. The rest of 2018 was quiet. Worryingly quiet. Aside from one Pro Tour semi-final, he failed to make a major impact. It felt like the fire that powered his miracle run had burned out just as fast as it caught flame. Even when he got a wild card spot at the World Series in front of a record-breaking crowd, his performance was inconsistent. He edged out Nico Kerr in a deciding leg, then followed it up with a 109 average win over Dimitri van den Berg. But just days later, he dipped into the 80s. Barely scraping by Rob Cross before losing to James Wade. The highs were still there, but the lows were starting to hit more often. At the 2019 World Championship, he showed flashes, beating Cody Harris and Daryl Gurney in tight sets, but then collapsed in a 4-0 loss to Dave Chisnall. And from there, things spiraled, fast. His 2019 season was a shadow of what came before. He didn't get past the last 16 of any event. His averages dropped into the mid-80s. He slipped out of the top 32. And for the first time since his breakthrough, he failed to qualify for the World Championship. But no one knew just how dark things were about to get. 2020 started with a thud, 6 first-round losses in the opening 8 events. Then came the COVID break. When the tour resumed, Jaime Lewis returned, but it wasn't the same player. Not even close. He kept crashing out in round 1, sometimes averaging in the low 80s. But nothing prepared fans for what came next. In a Euro Tour match, Jaime walked on stage and averaged just 57, one of the lowest ever recorded in a professional PDC match. He didn't win a leg. He barely competed. Social media exploded. Fans were confused, angry, and concerned. And rumors started flying. Had Jaime Lewis quit darts? But then the truth came out, and it hit harder than anyone expected. Lewis posted that he was dealing with severe anxiety and had been bombarded with online abuse. The PDC and PDPA quickly stepped in, connecting him with Sporting Chance, a mental health organization for athletes. It was clear now, Jaime wasn't just struggling on the board, he was fighting off the board, too. He missed several events after that, and many assumed he was done for good. A sad end to a player who once looked like the sport's next big thing. But just when everyone counted him out, Jaime came back swinging. After hitting rock bottom and disappearing from the spotlight, most fans assumed Jaime Lewis was finished. But what happened next silenced every doubt. At the end of 2020, he returned to the Aki at the PDPA World Championship qualifier, and somehow, against the odds, he made it through. 3 straight wins, and just like that, Jaime was back at Ally Pally. In the first round, he faced Luke Woodhouse. It went all the way to a deciding set, but Jaime held his nerve, averaging 90 and securing a win that, months earlier, seemed impossible. Then came the real test, world number 1 Gerwyn Price. What followed stunned everyone. Jaime didn't just survive, he pushed Price to a final set. This was the same player who had averaged 57 just 2 months earlier. Now he was nearly knocking out the future world champ. Though he lost 3-2, the message was clear, Jaime Lewis still had fight in him. It wasn't enough to save his tour card. He finished the season ranked 78th on the order of merit, but it reminded fans exactly what he was capable of. The form wasn't consistent, but the fire, still there. And while he was out of the PDC, Jaime wasn't done writing his story. Since falling off the tour, Jaime has returned to Q School multiple times, each time hoping to reclaim the spot he once earned as a teenager. So far, he hasn't made it back, but outside the PDC, something surprising happened. In 2022, Jaime entered the Antwerp Open, a WDF event with over 400 players, and won it. His first major title in over a decade. It wasn't on the same stage as the World Championship, but for Jaime, it was a start. A reminder that his game wasn't gone, just hidden. That win earned him a spot at the 2023 WDF World Championship, where he was set to face Jano Bodenberg in the first round. If he won that, he'd take on Danny Lauby in round 2, another shot at proving he still belongs among the elite. These days, Jaime's not chasing headlines. He's chasing peace, redemption, a second chance. And for the fans who watched him rise, fall, and rise again, that's more than enough. Jaime Lewis didn't just rise, fall, and vanish. He exposed something deeper, how talent alone isn't always enough, and how the pressure of a spotlight can crush even the brightest sparks. He went from breaking records to barely hitting the board. From 107 averages to online abuse. From the edge of greatness to the edge of the game itself. But somehow, through it all, he never gave up. His story isn't just about darts. It's about resilience. About facing down the noise, the doubt, and the fear, and still stepping up to the line. Because in the end, Jaime Lewis may not have a tour card. He may never reach another world semifinal, but he's already shown something more powerful than silverware, the guts to come back when no one believed he would. And in darts, as in life, sometimes that's the biggest win of all.